Hey there, and welcome to the Everyday Marksman, the podcast where it's all about tactical skills for living a more adventurous life. I'm your host, Matt Robertson. Our website is everydaymarksman.co. There you're going to find today's show notes, our blog, articles, community of marksmen, YouTube channel, all of that fantastic stuff. Come on by, hit that big green subscribe button. I am happy you are here today. It is, well, as I'm going to post this, it is December 31st. I'm recording this on December 30th, the night before, but close enough, right? So I think there's always value in pausing for a moment to consider your performance and evaluate where you stand. 2024 was an interesting year for a lot of reasons. I hit a lot of personal milestones, fell behind some other areas, and along the way, there were several unexpected challenges that just added constraints to my time. So my goal today is to share with you how I feel like I did across several areas, particularly marksmanship and firearm skills, physical fitness, other marksman-related skills, the everyday marksman itself, as well as some personal goals. So I'll give myself a grade on each category, and let's get right into it, starting with the marksmanship and firearm skills. And I'm giving myself a B grade. This year felt a bit unfocused. I started 2024 without any particular shooting goals in mind. And so I did the natural thing and started emphasizing gear and buying new guns. And this started with the GHM9 project early in the year, which was my foray into the PCC or SMG format. And that's been really interesting. And I'm glad I went down that path. But I do ultimately feel like it was just doing something because I was bored. Now, a lot of that was the impulse to explore my own thinking around marksmanship training zones. If you remember, I've got this big focus on the 0 to 50 yard critical zone of skill. And the PCC I'm coming to find is just amazing for that job. Now then, come July, I commented that I would start the path towards pistolero. And the idea was, again, that 0 to 50 yard critical zone and the fact that I just have always been more of a rifle shooter than a pistol shooter. To support my goal, I bought more books and focused on pistol shooting. And to be honest, I've kind of neglected those books. Thumbed through them, read them from time to time, absorbed on reading, but I have not been doing the drills. Shame on me. I bought a 22 long rifle pistol, a Mark IV, to add some additional inexpensive practice. And then I attended the Appleseed Pistol Clinic in October. And then I set a baseline for myself of competition performance in December. Most of my range time the second half of the year, sparse as it may be, focused on pistol shooting. Now, to this end, I am committed to amping up some of my existing pistols and taking them into next year. So my long-serving Beretta 92A1 is currently over at Allegheny Arms and Gun Works in Pennsylvania, getting the royal treatment. I should have that back any day. And I'm very likely to send off my 18-year-old Springfield 1911 loaded to get something similar from another gunsmith. Now, my intention is that these are honestly my first two big pistol purchases, and they have a lot of sentimental value, but I'm also intending them to become my primary competition guns in their respective divisions. So the single stack division would be the 1911. The production division would be my Beretta 92. I have a CZ-P07 that's been worked over by Cajun Gun Works. That's my carry gun. And then I also have a production optics or limited optics or carry optics gun. That's my P10F. And now I also have the rimfire optics gun, the Mark IV. So I really could compete in just about anything except open. And I'm not willing to go down that 2011 double stack 1911 route just yet. Yes, I know using 4 wildly different patterns with different operating mechanisms complicates training, but oh well, I'll just deal with that. Now, while I'm not totally unpracticed going into 2025, I would benefit from at least some regular practice sessions during the week, dry fire, live fire. And I'll talk more about how I'm going to structure that in the future. I know how to do it. It's just more about fitting it in. So go back to the grade. I think generally the year went pretty well. My shooting skills didn't degrade necessarily, though I have not been hitting any new highs, and especially considering my goal has been pistol shooting. So we're going to dig into that next year. So let's go to physical fitness. Here I'm giving myself an A. I'm being optimistic. Coming into 2024, most of my content and thinking revolved around fitness. I went all in on building a home gym. There's an entire write-up on the website around the home gym compendium and my experience doing that. And I've maintained a level of discipline and consistency that I could never have dreamt of in decades prior. And at the start of the year, I was following some really good programming from Andy Baker, link in the show notes, and I was enjoying the gains. Then comes spring, I took a total detour and I spent 12 weeks on a dedicated kettlebell training program. Again, I have a whole article about that right up. It was Kettlebell Maximorum by Jeff Newbert. It is a 4-day-a-week program of kettlebell clean and press, double kettlebell clean and press, double kettlebell front squat, and kettlebell snatch. And then I also mixed in cardio sessions with that on an air bike. It was quite the experience, and I gained a lot of conditioning with that. Really enjoyed it, though I did lose a bit of maximal strength. Now, I did that whole thing while being on a fat loss phase. So it went down to 180 pounds, which is the lowest weight I've been in my entire adult life, down from 215 at the start of 2023 and a lifetime high of 235 pounds several years ago. I did lose a bit of maximum barbell strength. Lesson learned on the kettlebells. It's just a different style of training. And then from the end of that program, I have been back on a barbell-focused regime that mixes in kettlebells from time to time. So in all, I would say that 2024 was a really good learning year. I got to experiment with a bunch of different training methodologies to see what I like. I got to see what works for me, what I enjoy doing, how to program different things together. And I also enjoyed what I did with my body composition goals. So going into 2025, I now have a very good idea what I enjoy doing, what works for me, and that's just a good place to be. So grade A on the physical fitness. I think probably one of the highlights of my year. Other skills, other marksman skills. So if you've been following me for a long time, you know this is like survival skills and radio skills and knot tying. And to be honest, I'm giving myself a D. I didn't quite fail at this one this year, but I also didn't put a whole lot of effort into it. But after the hurricane fallout in North Carolina and Tennessee this year, I did go out and pick up a high frequency radio, a Yaesu FT710. And I just have not committed much time to actually getting my general radio license. You know, I'm going to have to focus on that. I have not gotten on the air with it. I did practice some knot tying here and there, mostly to improvise solutions to like random things that like arose. And that's fine. You know, and while I did get a lot of practice with some other things like video production, photography, and other technical skills, which are valuable to me in a general day-to-day life, these aren't really the kinds of things that I want to write about all the time. So going into 2025, the first order of business is the general ticket and getting on the air with that HF radio. And then I'll figure out to build on some other skills as we go. I'll talk more about that in my 2025 goals. Next topic, the everyday marksman, which I'm giving myself a grade of C. This is a bit of a weird category, and I'm using it as a reflection of how I think I did running the whole Everyday Marksman brand this past year. That means publishing articles, podcasts, working with manufacturers and videos and things like that. As you know, I am a one-man show. I don't have a staff or a team of people who help me out. I have people in the community who sometimes submit articles. I'm very thankful for them for doing that. But I tend to run this thing by myself, and I have a day job. You know, there was a point in time, probably around 2020, 2021, where I had in my mind that I was going to grow the Everyday Marksman brand to be a full-on business that could become my primary living and take care of my family. And this era was characterized with regular new content a few times a week, a dogged devotion to keyword research, expanding formats, audio and video, and pursuit of a thriving community of paying members. Now, eventually I realized that the amount of time, effort, and the compromises it was going to take to make that happen wasn't worth the squeeze. You know, the most popular sites in this whole firearms niche have a laser focus on the one thing they write about, an army of staff writers and business relationships with manufacturers. working on the print side, publishing with American Rifleman from time to time, I see what those relationships look like and take to build and maintain, and I just simply don't have that kind of time. Sneaking away every evening to go write and record for a couple of hours every night meant neglecting my wife and our relationship and our time together, and it just wasn't something I could sustain. And I also just don't want to write about things I don't find interesting, like random new releases from manufacturers and companies that I just really have no passion for. So what does that have to do with 2024? I feel like this was a slow year for my writing and content. My most popular stuff is still the stuff that I wrote from years ago. And it's easy enough to republish that with a few updates, things like how to build your battle belt and barrel life, barrel length and your zeros and picking the right AR and all those gear reviews. And gear reviews are fine, but they're also slow to produce. For example, I have a 5.56 AK, an AK-101 in my safe right now that PSA sent to me. Thanks, you guys. Sorry, I'm late on this one, but I just have not had time to do a proper range session with it due to other commitments. Like I had paid writing gigs for magazine I had to go submit, and then I had travel for work, and I just have not had really any weekends to go do it. And I feel bad for taking on more work than I actually have time to accomplish. And there's this whole reputational thing. Look, you know me. I very actively avoid billing myself as some kind of expert. And therefore, I also avoid offering all kinds of detailed advice of things like tactics and advanced shooting skills that you could easily go find from an actual subject matter expert who's been there and done that. I see myself more like the start here guy who offers sound, practical advice that's generally applicable, and then I'm happy to point you where you can go learn more. The problem with my little niche is that there's only so much beginner-friendly stuff that I can do before it just gets repetitive, and I don't really care for repetitive. Difficulties in getting new content out the door aside, the site has done pretty well monetarily. A couple of years ago, I started working with an ad placement service, Topple, if you are an aspiring blogger out there, and it finally kind of caught and took off and now provides a pretty reliable revenue stream each month. My Ammo Squared affiliate setup is fully covering my ammunition needs, and I still love that service every month. So again, hey, I'm going to plug Ammo Squared here. I have really enjoyed the fact that I don't worry about when I buy ammo because it's automatic every month. Is that I have that deposit in my account and they go buy whatever allotment of ammo I want, and it just stockpiles and comes to my house. I have more ammo now than I'm going to shoot probably for a long time, and I keep just stockpiling more. It's fantastic. Anyway, that has done really well, and my affiliate sales are with them, and you can learn more at everydaymarksman.co/ammo, has worked really well to help cover those needs. And my general affiliate sales in other places are additional bump. I'm not saying this is a huge amount of money, but in all, it means that the website's expenses are covered, and I have enough left over to invest in training, match fees, and gear to review from time to time. I think the one highlight I have in the Everyday Marksman brand is the community, the Discord server. It's fantastic. So for you guys who are listening, I'm thankful every day for you. I frankly consider you my friends at this point, and I most enjoy hanging out and talking with you about whatever and getting feedback on what's going on and just spitballing the latest memes of the day. So thanks for being there. In 2025, I'm going into the year with a bit more focus, or a lot more focus, on pistols and pistol shooting. I think that's going to be a benefit because I can document the fact that this is something I have not been great at in the past, and here's how I'm improving on it and what I'm learning along the way. So it gets me back to that core niche of being the beginner-friendly, generally applicable advice guy who can tell you what's what and point you where to go. Last category here is the personal. There's a saying that says life begins at 40, and I'm 41 now. And everything up to that point is laying the foundation and learning. And I think there's a lot of merit to this idea because the habits that I have implemented and developed over the last 10 years are especially paying off now. I've got more freedom in my time. I have more freedom financially to tinker and go do things and go have fun. I'm not really as worried about setting all the right pieces in motion as I was 10 years ago. Now, it's not to say this year didn't have challenges. The first half was pretty normal, but at about middle of the year, my day job went through a round of layoffs, as many people's jobs did. And while I made the cut and stayed, most of my team did not. So about 60% of people on my team who I worked with or worked for me or who I worked for, so my direct boss included, did not stay. And then the company reorganized the department into another division entirely and put me in charge of what was left of the team. And I was tasked with re-engineering our business model and all these other internal practices while also not dropping any of our existing commitments. And that's with a third of the staff that we had before. So needless to say, the second half of the year has been a bit of a whirlwind with a lot of stress. And I had to scale things back in my life and prioritize the most important things to deal with. That meant taking care of my family first, keeping on top of my fitness, and then the job that pays for it all. The website, The Everyday Marksman, and the brand in general just had to take a bit of a backseat for a while. Now, luckily, I think we're mostly through this tunnel. Operations have scaled back for next year to match our actual capacity, and the new strategy is looking good. So with that, I am looking forward to getting back on top of the writing, recording, photography, and all the stuff for the site and using it as my creative outlet. Which gets me to what are the 2025 goals and objectives for the next year. So there's 5 that I'm going to talk about today. I'm sure there's going to be little things that pop up throughout the year like mini goals and side quests. But what are the top 5 goals? First, pistol proficiency. So both my practice sessions as well as training and competition. My goal is to compete in at least 4 pistol-focused competitions with 6 being better. All right. I also want to do at least 1 pistol-focused training course. And I've interviewed them several times and they've always offered. I've never taken them up on it, but I'm probably going to do it this year with Green Ops is going to be my trainer of choice. Now, looking at practice score events that are upcoming, I think my games, as you will, air quoting, the games are going to be Steel Challenge, PCSL Pistol, and then whatever outlaw matches pop up at local clubs. So that's what I'm going to look forward to doing next year. Second goal, 2025, is the year that I lean down to my target body fat percentage. So I've done 2 waves of fat loss over the past 2 years. I mentioned I started at 215 and I went from 25% down to probably like 18%. And then I went 18%. The next year went 18% down to like 16%. And then I let it drift back up to kind of put some muscle mass back in. Now my goal is to aim down to 12-ish%, which is, if you know my writing and my philosophy, my personal thinking is that for most men, the optimal amount of body fat is somewhere in 12% to 15%, which is pretty damn lean. Okay, I'm not going to lie about that. That's pretty damn lean, and it's, but it just seems like all the science that I read just indicates that's the place to be. All right, and like I said, I'm 41, so my goal will be to get down to that range and then hold on to it for as long as I can. All right. Third goal, I want to build my radio skills. So it means getting my general ticket and starting to work the radio and develop that kind of knowledge. The goal is at least 3 Parks on the Air POTA activations sessions during the year. So I can scatter those around. That'll also give me an idea how to do field ops with HF radio, which is something I just, again, having no experience with HF, it's going to be a learning curve, right? Fourth goal, I'm going to expand on my gunsmithing skill set. Again, something to be interesting to write about. So up to this point, I have managed to do moderate difficulty tasks like installing aftermarket springs, triggers, hammers, sears, strikers, and small parts on some of my pistols. I think the most involved projects were with my Beretta 92 and my Ruger Mark IV. Now, none of these things required fitting, sanding, filing, or permanent modifications. In 2025, the goal is to go deeper into this side of the house by picking a project pistol and learning how to do some real work on it. Now, I haven't quite picked that pistol yet, but most likely it's going to be a 9mm 1911 platform, something suited to the Steel Challenge matches I mentioned under the first goal, right? Like I said, I don't think I'm quite ready to step up to the double stacks and the 2011s just yet, but let's start with a 9mm 1911 for now. All right. Now, fifth goal is to finish writing the damn book. I first mentioned it a long time ago. I keep getting to it in fits and spurts where I make a lot of progress and then it goes back to the back burner. And then I come back and rewrite portions of it as I kind of shift my ideas or decide I don't like what I wrote before. Well, now is the time to commit before AI gets better at writing what I was going to say anyway. Of course, I will keep you updated on what I learn as I go through these goals. All right, let's wrap this one up. It's hard to believe that I'm still here going on for 7 years since purchasing the Everyday Marksman domain. 11 years if you count the way back to the beginning of the free WordPress site. Most bloggers I know who started around the same time that I did have long since sold their sites, moved on to something else, or just stopped posting altogether. It seems the world largely has moved beyond blogs, and even podcasts are starting to lose their favor with people who aren't famous. So I'm happy you are here, right? I know most people go to YouTube and I got a presence there, but my first passion will always be here, writing and recording what I write here with you on the podcast. So thank you for joining me along this path. And I look forward to sharing more as I continue to learn and develop into my 8th year. All right. That's it. Thanks for listening. Come by the website, check out the show notes, and I got a lot of links in there to link to the things I've been talking about today. So everydaymarksman.co. And then while you're there, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks for listening. Take care, and I'll see you next time.